Today we're with Daniel Dereser. We met at an event. You're the CEO and President of Boiron. I think we connected pretty quickly and everything. But thank you for taking your time. I appreciate you.
Thank you. When you mentioned about this opportunity, I said yes right away. So I'm very, very happy to be here.
You just came back from vacation. You have a nice tan.
Yeah. Well, I'm mixed, but it was great to stop and spend some time with my mom and my son. So,
where did you go?
Oh, very boring, but I love it. Punta Cana. I love Dominican Republic. I love these people. So
amazing.
I was very happy.
So tell us a bit more about your background. You know, you're from what we discussed, I feel like you're very close to your family. You're close to your mom. What's your origin story?
Oof. You have time?
I have time.
It's complicated. I was born and raised in Marseille, south of France, and from a German dad.
Mm-hmm.
We have that's an aspect to it. And my mom is from Eritrea, so it's the north of Ethiopia.
Okay.
In Africa, in East Africa. So very tiny country that suffered for the past 40 years, even more. And so mixed. Grew up in Marseille. Studied pharmacy. I did my doctorate of pharmacy there.
But what drew you? I'm sorry, I'm interrupting because like I'm super curious. Like, what drew you to pharmacy in the first place?
It's a very good point. When I was 11 years old, I was a school drop-off.
Okay.
I was a D- student, and my mom was desperate, and you will see where I'm going there. And then I went to a camp, a skiing camp, when first time I saw snow and skiing because I didn't have money. I grew up very poor. And I went there with kids that were wealthy, but very nice and with a lot of empathy.
Mm-hmm.
And I met one guy. I will always remember this guy. He doesn't know. I hope he's still alive. And he was one of the guys helping us, an adult, talking about commerce and international commerce, how to travel and his profession, what he was doing and doing business all over the world in Asia and everything. And I admired, and I always told myself, I'll do business around the world.
Okay.
I want to travel, do business. That's what I want to do. Later on, I wanted to be in healthcare because my uncle was a medical doctor, and he always told me to do medicine. But I was a little bit too lazy to go to medical school
for that long. Yeah,
for that long. And I was with my best friend Nicolas Levy, and he went to register for medical school. And I saw a beautiful girl, Christelle Labrande, that became my girlfriend for 4 years. And I followed her, and I saw that the line to register was smaller in pharmacy school, so I said, "I will register there."
that was all it took.
So no, seriously, I wanted to do something very pragmatic, where you know what at the end of your studies you will have a profession.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend of mine, his dad was a pharmacist in a branch of pharmacy called business and the business side, the marketing part. So I was always fascinated about it. And medical school was really tough because the competition, it's 2,000 people for 300 positions.
Mm-hmm.
Pharmacy, you are 700 people for 140. Do your ratio, it's easier to go to pharmacy.
Right.
So I went there, and pharmacists are well recognized in France. So I wanted to do it, and I was committed to it.
Mm-hmm.
And
so then you finished that, and then tell us like what brought you eventually to Montreal, and you know, like everything in between. Like
it will take 2 hours, my friend.
It's fine, we have time.
So I did pharmacy school. I did also a management program in Lyon afterwards, and sometimes things happen because of opportunities that comes to you, and you just have to be aware and you have to get it.
Yeah, it's serendipity.
That's it.
Yeah.
I believe in destiny, but also you have to make the right choice at the right moment. My destiny was, I knew I wanted to live in the US.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I wanted to live in North America. I knew my destiny was there. Listen to that. When I was 13 years old, I was with my US family because I have cousins there.
Mhm.
And we drove by LA to go to Anaheim for Disneyland. And I looked at the palm trees in downtown LA, and I told my uncle, one day I'll live there. I'll live here.
Mm.
Well, I lived 12 years in LA.
Let's go. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I lived 12 years in LA, and then I met my ex-wife, who's Quebecoise, and she got pregnant, and then she wanted to move back. And right at that moment, I had the opportunity to become the CEO for the Canadian subsidiary.
Yeah.
I moved with her and my son there, and I decided to live here in Montreal, despite the fact that I'm still in love with LA.
Mm-hmm.
But life happens for a reason.
Mm.
You have to follow your gut is telling you.
But did you always have this? Because you mentioned, you had visions of like you wanted to live in LA. Did you always have those goals and aspirations? And I'm just very curious about like the uncertainty that you felt in the moment, because a lot of times like what's taking people back and what's not allowing people to take action is their fear of the unknown.
Yes.
How did you deal with that?
When you look at my background, my dad left the war in Germany after the war. He was born during the war. He was a military officer for the French army. My mom left the war as she fought against Ethiopia and the USSR. And I grew up with the concept of no fear.
Mm-hmm.
You have to confront your fear, overcome it, make the right decision, move on, don't look backward, move forward.
Mm.
Even though I grew up poor, but I grew up with parents that had strong values.
Mm.
Sometimes you have to overcome your fear. I have fears every day. Every day. I have a fear of missing that comes from when you have a mom who was a refugee.
Mm.
You grew up with that. You grew up with this feeling of missing.
Yeah.
But at one point, you have to be courageous, take your responsibility, move on, move forward, and not be afraid of making the wrong decision.
Mm-hmm.
When I left France to go to the US, I had no idea where the factory was because I was hired to open a factory there. Back in the days, you don't know, you are young, but back in the days we didn't have all these internet connections and everything in Google. We had MapQuest.
Okay.
You had to print your MapQuest paper and find out where the location was, and you had a binder with maps everywhere.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And you had the yellow pages to get phone numbers of businesses. I remember that time. I'm not that young.
So I signed up for a job in Simi Valley. I thought it was around LA, and I realized it was an hour and a half from LA.
Uh-huh.
And I opened this factory. I had a fear. I had a fear of
not like maybe having, now they might describe it as like imposter syndrome. Like, am I up to the task? Like,
yeah,
can I do it?
Can I do it? Am I capable to do it?
Yeah.
Do I have the capacity and the knowledge to do it? Probably not. But sometimes it reminds me that I have to tell you something. Men overestimate themselves and don't have as much concerns and fears as women when women are more competent than men in some positions to take the power, to take managerial positions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I have realized. And that's why we'll talk later about how we need to endorse and empower women in power and take more responsibilities as managers, directors, and so on. You have less fear. I had no fears. But I had the goal of living in the US back in the days. I had the goal to become a CEO. I knew exactly what the long term would be. I had a goal to become a dad.
Mm-hmm.
I became a dad. I have another goal that I'm not going to relate today for the future. But you need to have specific goals. And the thing is, the pathway to get to that goals will have ups and downs.
Yeah. And you might have to course correct. Like,
yes.
Maybe you're steering too much to the left, you're steering too much to the right,
You're right. I failed multiple times. But when you are down, wake up, move on, and boom. Because it's easy to go down deeper.
Yeah.
So you you have to confront your fear. And I grew up in, as I told you, in this with this background of two parents living what I'd never experienced, a war.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I think that gives us, because I come from a similar background, but I think that gives us a lot of perspective. For me, like what drives the hell out of me is just the gratitude of being here. And the fact of like, well, what if all these people that came before me didn't do those things? I wouldn't even be here. So, this minor annoyance that I might have in a day where I blow it up, like it's so huge. It's such a big problem. How big of a problem is it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. When you put everything back into their perspectives, you realize that we are lucky.
Oh, super lucky.
Your parent, I know your dad left Vietnam.
Yeah.
And it was tough for him.
Yeah. And I mean, the privilege that we have today is that we don't have to come from a wealthy family to move up the ranks of society. And that's something that I think technology has democratized for everyone. Like,
right.
We don't care. I mean, you're on the internet. Like, if you know how to sell things, if you're competent at what you do, obviously there's always like exceptions to the rule. There's people that see things differently. But in a general basis, if you're really good, you're going to be undeniable.
Yes, but you're lucky. Your generation has more tools available than we used to have.
Mm-hmm.
Number one. Number two, you grew up in North America.
True. Yeah.
North America, the society allows you to take more risk. It doesn't matter where your background is, what your parents are, your name is. Mm-hmm. I grew up in France. I know you did as well. But I grew up in France where even the location, the streets where you live on your resume makes an impact.
Told something about you.
Yeah. Let me tell you one story. When I was a pharmacy student, I applied to become an intern, to do an internship at Boiron, the company where I am right now, 23 years later. They never responded to me.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. I don't want to know why. But when I celebrated my 20 years, Michelle Boiron, the owner of the company, was there. She, a beautiful, remarkable lady that I adore, gave me a gift. We had a celebration and so on. And I mentioned about this kid, this young adult, applying for that job and never got a response about it. Mm-hmm. And I was questioning at that time, is it because I have a picture with my face on that resume? Because that's how it is set up in France. Is it because of the street where I lived? Because I lived in a poor neighborhood, back in the days in Marseille? Is it because of... Anyhow, the way what I'm trying to tell you is, in France, it was more complicated back in the days to overcome all these obstacles. I'm very optimistic for this new generation. You have great opportunities. And it doesn't matter if you have 10, 20 people telling you no. There's one person that's going to say yes and take that opportunity.
And how are you, let's say at Boiron right now, because you're CEO and president as well of the North American branch, right? Canada branch. How are you implementing that to inspire this younger generation to reflect this vision?
By telling them that, in fact, in 2007, 2008, I almost got fired.
No way. Okay.
in the US, because I was in a conflict with the previous former CEO. I don't want to talk about it, but the guy is no longer there. And because I met one of my mentor, Janik, this guy believed in me, and I had to downsize a little bit my ambition at that time, but I believed in him, and I rebuilt my career in a certain way. And years later, I became the CEO of the Canadian subsidiary. By integrity, hard work, believing in yourself, not having any fear to overcome these obstacles, and the last but not the least, meeting that person that believes in you.
Yeah.
Because there's not 20 people that believes in you in your career. There's 1, 2, or maybe 3 if you are lucky. And you just need to be aware, conscious, and take the risk to believe in that person too.
What are you looking for when you're, let's say you're hiring new people that's coming into the company as someone that would move up the ranks? Let's say I start at a position and then you give me an opportunity to move like in a higher up rank. Like, what are you looking for?
Interesting. Let me give you one example. Anna. If she hears that podcast one day, she will be embarrassed. But Anna, when she came, she was a catering manager or something like that for a hotel in Saint Leonard. And when you look at the resume, a lot of people make the mistakes to read all the pages of a resume. Mm-hmm. When I look at a resume, I promise you, I look at two things. I never look at the school, never look at the last part of the resume. I look at how stable is that person. Mm-hmm. I don't see 2, 3, 4 years
in a company, in a certain business corporation. Yeah.
Exactly. And then I listen to my HR and I want to see that person. Every employee in my subsidiary has to pass the last interview with me. But I don't talk about the resume. I look at what they have inside deeply, the feeling. You have to listen to your instinct. So Anna, when she came, it was for an inside sales position. Mm-hmm. And I saw someone with a lot of potential. I looked at her and I said, she has a big potential and she doesn't know it. I was listening, and normally which is rare, I listen for 30 minutes and then I ask and I see the real personality after 45 minutes. And I saw in her integrity, I saw in her a hard worker person. I saw in her a lot of, she was smart. And even though she didn't have the right school, the right thing or whatsoever, I told her, start with us inside sales, but trust the process. Mm-hmm. Now she is our e-commerce manager handling 35% of our sales with Amazon, the biggest account, and she's traveling and learning about AI and e-commerce, and she's not even at the end of her career; it's the beginning for her, which wasn't what she was looking for when she applied.
Right, yeah.
You have to have a vision for that person, but my criteria might be different than yours. You just have to bond with that person in terms of values, in terms of personality, of course. But you have to listen to your instinct. You have to meet that person and feel it right away. Am I going to be, if I may, it's not the right image. Am I going to the war with the right soldiers?
Yeah. Like, do I have wartime generals or?
You don't need generals. But you need people that are loyal in terms of business. They will follow you. They will believe in you, and you will believe in them. It's something that you cannot measure. You feel it, you have it, or you don't.
It has to be reciprocal. I'm sure there's always like a level, at least for me, like what I'm looking for is like a level of proactivity where like you're asking for more, you're rising up to more. How did you personally instill that in yourself? Like maybe it came naturally, but I just want to understand like what made you go from someone that was, you were in California and now you moved to Montreal and like you're in this position now. Like it's not something you can read in textbooks,
No. It comes from your background, how you grew up, and your parents, of course. And when I had my got my doctorate of pharmacy, I remember my mom looking at me and said, "Do you think it's the end of the tunnel? You're just at the early stage." Mm-hmm. I grew up with parents that, and especially my mom, who was a housekeeper, cleaned 3 houses a day to pay my university, pay my food and everything. And she was struggling, but she always told me, and she always gave me this la hargne, but she always gave me this energy to always start for more. It's kind of a FOMO, by the way, huh? Fear of missing. Yeah. Always more, and I can do better. I can do it. I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. So that gives you what you call the proactivity that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Being proactive. When you run a company, running a company is being proactive. You have to anticipate what's the worst case scenario will be. My entire life, I was always anticipating, and I'm still doing it, which is a problem. What could be the worst case?
Yeah.
Once you identify what could be the worst case, you make sure that you don't go deep into that worst case and you make the right decisions to be where you need to be. So basically, to answer your questions, it's how you grew up, especially the first 9, 10, 12 years of your life.
It really forms like who you are.
Absolutely. I realized that because it took me 47 years to see a psychologist.
What brought you to that point of
wanting
to see
one? I failed. I was reproducing my dad's pattern. Made some mistakes in my personal life, which I regret now. And it was time for me to really invest in me. I invested in real estate. I invested in my career. I invested in my son. I invested in many things, but I'd never invested in me and my mental health. So it was time for me to really wake up and to realize that I could not run my life the way I was running it.
I'm very glad that you got to experience that.
It's not done yet.
Yeah, for sure.
Still a long process. I still have a lot of things to do.
But I think it's a constant process because we ebb and flow. We have good days, we have bad days. Sometimes we go back into the old patterns and you're like, hold up a minute. Like, why am I feeling this way? And again,
Yeah. But to go back to the professional side of it, your career will not be
it's not a
long
straight
fleuve
line.
tranquille.
No.
Going to be ups and downs.
Yeah.
And the thing is to anticipate the downs. When everything goes well, everything is fine. When everything goes well, your clients love you, your best friends, your friends, you have more friends.
Yeah.
When you realize that in fact these friends are not your friends and so on. And then when you see things going so well, you have to anticipate that things will go down, and you have to anticipate that you can take that curve and go
and
up
spring back up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you something about leadership. Since you're in that position, how do you deal with candor? Meaning delivering good feedback to people without necessarily, in a layman's way of saying it, is without hurting people's feelings, or doing it in such a way where people will receive it well. How do you give feedback?
In the beginning of my career, I wasn't good at that. I made some mistakes, and I've learned from my mistakes. What I realized that was very important is, as long as you are transparent with your staff, and as long as you respect them and you show that you care about them, people will take it in a different way, in a more accepted way, in a more gentle way. In the beginning, I was rough, made some mistakes, made the wrong decision. The wording wasn't right. Le fond et la forme. It was the timing was not right. So, and I'm still learning. I'm 48 now, but I'm still learning about my mistakes. I did one 2 weeks ago. Was stressed, and I should have not mentioned what I mentioned in front of everyone. So I went to that specific employee, not naming it, and I apologized right away. I says the timing was wrong. What I told you was right. The timing was wrong. So what is really important when you lead a company is to surround yourself with people that are not the yes boss,
the yes man
type,
or the yes woman.
Yeah, exactly. It's important to have people that are different than you, sometimes more competent than you. It's important. But also people that can tell you, like this guy says, I know you're stressed right now. We're here to help you. Let us know how we can help. That was his answer. And I found this answer so powerful that I had to thank him. Because if you surround yourself with genuine people that will speak their mind and express it for your best, for and not to hurt you, but will tell you the truth.
Exactly, like putting in place a system where people feel comfortable speaking their minds. But you as the leader have to nurture that,
Yes.
Because it doesn't come naturally. Like a lot of times, the way that society and structure has been built over thousands of years, like even if we go back like tribal times, if you see someone as the leader, Like a lot of times you might stifle yourself a bit to go their way because that produces less friction. Because what if the leader doesn't like what you want to say?
And don't get me wrong. I am sure 100% that in my staff, not everybody is comfortable to tell me that I'm wrong.
But at least being aware of it is like.
And in the right timing. The timing is very important. Sometimes it's not what you say. It's when the environment and when you say it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like saying constructive feedback one-on-one with the person when they're in a mood to receive it versus like when it's a big conference where like all the team is there and then just exposing them, that's a different thing.
Absolutely. I was on the conference call with my executive team on the plane, leaving to that trip to Toronto for a business meeting that was stressing me out. And I didn't realize that I should have shut up at that time and not mention what I mentioned, Sometimes, you still make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
But if you agree that you made a mistake and you fucked it up, and you go to that person and say, you know what, I fucked it up and I'm sorry, people will know that it was honest.
Mm-hmm.
We move on.
What does your day-to-day look like?
So my day today is very simple. So I go to the gym. I have a personal coach in the morning, which is good for not only physical, but mentally. So Marcel, he will listen to that podcast. That guy saved my life because back in the days, I was not as strict and healthy as before. And then I do all my emails when I come back from the gym in my building.
Mm-hmm.
I take a cold shower, put some house music that I love, Afro house, to give me that. I listen to my podcast, go to the office, set up all my meetings, piled up one after another. And I eat which is not healthy. I eat my lunch during meetings, and I try to have. At the end of the day, I try to either meet my friends or take time for myself and read or listen to my podcast or look at my my best TV shows and try to spend as much time with people that I love.
Mm-hmm.
I made the mistakes to spend too much time with people that were not worth it.
As a workout, like right now, what's your regiment like?
So I became in love with my boxing classes with Shaquille.
Nice.
Shaquille is a professional boxing guy at Blackout.
Okay.
Let's put some advertising there. I love them. And Marcel as well, who became a friend. So we do CrossFit because I need intense work to release my stress.
Yeah.
I was a soccer player all my life. So
are you still good?
Look, I barely can move anymore.
No, don't say that. I'm pretty sure you're good.
I was. A routine is very important because if you don't have a routine Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, your week you need that intense 6-7 hours of work nonstop. That gives you my rhythm, even 8.
I'm sorry I'm cutting you off because I'm curious, does that happen before the workout or after the workout?
Always after.
Okay.
Because then I'm
you're more zen.
You see some weird emails or some situation that you really don't care because you gave all your energy during the workout.
Yeah.
So it's the best.
You're not as reactive.
You are not reacting anymore. You're more passive. You're more in the listening mode, and that calm me down. It's very strange, Yoga doesn't do that to me. Meditation doesn't do that to me. I have so much energy, so that helps me.
Mm-hmm.
I need to work my 7-8 hours straight. I always work. I always check my emails and so on. That's not a problem. And then I need time with myself or time with my friends or family.
Mm-hmm. At the end of the day.
Yes. I decided every Wednesday to pick up my son at 4 at his tennis place or school. It's a routine. Mm-hmm. Wednesday, don't bother me between 4 to 7. My time with my son.
Mm-hmm.
This is very important for my balance. Otherwise, you get really trapped.
Mm-hmm.
into this rhythm of always checking your emails, checking your phone, always being available for others. Yeah, but what if this 13 years old kid, waiting for you?
How has having being a father and having a son, how do you navigate not repeating the same cycle of what your parents put onto you?
You always repeat a part of it.
Yeah, because in some ways, I think it shapes you. And as much as we can, nothing is black and white, right?
Exactly.
Like there's disadvantages to the way that you grew up, but there's also a lot of advantages.
Yes. And I do reduplicate sometimes some stuff from my mom and my dad that are positive. And I do also reduplicate some stuff from my dad that are negative. But when you have a kid, the kid, it reflects who you are, and they will not be afraid to tell you that you fucked it up. Especially my son.
Yeah.
He doesn't say anything. He just look at me and says, really?
I'm disappointed.
He's an old school kid, His mom and I, we feel lucky to have Noah because he's an old school, very genuine kid. And sometimes they do help you to rebalance your acts and your beliefs and so on.
What's a belief you have that is kind of insane and not true, but you still have that belief?
Oh, wow. That's a tough question.
Or what's something, as if I can rephrase it, what's something you believe that most people don't?
But you know that it's not true.
Well, you have no way of proving it.
Interesting. Look, I spent 22 years of my life working in an industry, a niche called homeopathy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a controversial field because it's a natural health domain where and when healthcare, the industry, the pharmaceutical industries are having a hard time with it. And me as a pharmacist, pharmacist trained and a doctor of pharmacy, in the beginning, when I did my university, I really thought that homeopathy couldn't work. It's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was very evidence-based, it's that way, and we were told that way, and so on. Just fine. And then my personal experience and what I've been observing around me and then been educating more and more, I realized that, in fact, there are some natural health therapies that are effective, that requires more evidences.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically had to fight. And when I look at my career for 22 years, I spent my time defending freedom of choice, but also a therapy that is not totally explained yet, but have more and more evidences and more studies. And when I talk to my friends, all my friends' pharmacists, they always laugh about it, even though they still use some, by the way, for their kids. Yeah. But sometimes I wonder, why did you do that in your life? Is it due to your parents that were fighters?
Yeah.
Or why? What's the purpose? And the purpose behind it, why I'm doing it every morning, why do I wake up every morning working for Boiron, is because I believe that there's a kind of injustice with homeopathy. And injustice bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
I think the media, some medias, not everybody, some medias and some practitioners and so on have a misconception about it. Mm-hmm. I am not saying that homeopathy is perfect and they can treat everything and treat everyone.
Well, nothing is perfect, honestly.
No. But when I hear people extreme saying, oh, it's placebo, it's this, it's bullshit and so on. Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, they don't really know about the latest studies and the latest research that has been published. And so it's laziness or ignorance, because things are moving forward now. And I would love in 20 years to tell my son, you know what? I spent 20 years of my life and it was worth it. 40 years of my life working on that domain, and it was worth it because I knew it was working. You know how I discovered that homeopathy was working?
Oh.
I was a skeptical. Mm-hmm. I was an anti-homeopathy when I was a student of pharmacy.
Okay.
I thought it was bullshit.
Okay.
And So the mother of Christelle, who was my girlfriend at that time when I was 19, kept telling me your chronic sinus infection that I see every time needs to be treated, because I was taking all the antihistaminic treatments and everything. And she said, you need to see this medical doctor, because in France, homeopaths are medical doctors. Basically, I couldn't treat this sinus infection, chronic sinus infections. I tried with every regular conventional medications. So I went to see this doctor, and he kept asking me tons of questions. And I took these pills, and I was like, oh, this is sugar. I don't care. And I realized 6 months later and a year later that it worked. And then I used Arnica when I was a soccer player. And Arnica works. And I was like, what the hell is that? I mean, it cannot work. It's impossible. I'm a skeptic.
Yeah.
And then that's how
you don't want to see the truth in front of you.
No,
like, this must be placebo. This must be like,
oh yeah,
yeah,
kind of bullshit and useless. And then I realized on my personal experience, and other people have a lot of experiences that I could share. But I realized that it doesn't work on everything. It doesn't work for everybody. There's no medication that works on everything and on everything and on everybody. But when you prescribe the right source, the right product to the right symptoms, requires a lot of education, which is the DNA of our company. And when you have the right practitioner that knows what he's doing, it can be very effective on mental health, physical health, many aspects. And my philosophy and our philosophy is, it is not one treatment against the other. It's what we call integrative medicine. It's not alternative medicine. You can combine different therapies,
right?
Your anti-inflammatories, your antibiotics with natural therapies. It's one with the other and not one against the other.
It's not or.
Exactly. And that you can apply that for your life.
Yeah.
On everything.
I agree. Like, well, on that point, like I feel like people a lot of times in life, they think it's this or that. A lot of times you just have to say and. It's this and that.
You are mixed.
Yeah.
I am mixed. I'm half black, half white.
So we're all
Asian, white. So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And well, growing up with my mom, she's German as well. And growing up, I did take Arnica. Okay. And I feel like homeopathy in and of itself was started in Germany, right?
Yeah, by Dr. Hahnemann in 1780 or 92. I'd have to check it out, but 200 years.
But I feel like in Europe, it has such a more widespread acceptance.
Yes.
Of homeopathy. How do you feel that is evolving in Canada and the US?
Oh, very good question. In Germany, where your mom grew up and my dad grew up, it's mainstream. It's reimbursed by the healthcare system. In Switzerland as well. In France, you have 32% of medical doctors prescribing at least one homeopathic medicine, like Arnica and others. So they are accepting it more than what it is in Canada. In the US, it's up and coming more and more. I started my career in LA. Back in the days, only Whole Foods used to carry them. Now it's CVS, Walgreens, Walmart. You can name all the big chains. They carry it. It's successful. And Americans are more and more accepting on Amazon. Sometimes we lead in some specific categories in North America. Consumers use it because it's effective and safe.
It doesn't conflict with other medication. From what I've heard, right? Like it's not something that... let's say you're taking another medication, it's not something that easily like goes against it.
Exactly.
To make like side effects or whatnot.
Exactly. The beauty
because it's in small doses, right?
Exactly. It's using natural substances, botanical, minerals, and others in dilutions at such a level where there's no toxicity. That means no interactions with your regular conventional medication or no side effects. Or less side effects, very rare side effects. And that's the idea. Arnica, everybody knows Arnica. The majority of plastic surgeons and cosmetic surgeons use Arnica for Botox, breast augmentations, nose surgeries. You can name all of them. So a lot of people accept arnica. A lot of practitioners and medical doctors know that arnica works because the mechanism of action has been proven. There are studies. They know it's safe, and it doesn't counteract with what you take on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
But the plant by itself can be toxic. Go to the French mountain, you see these beautiful flowers, yellow flowers. They can provoke some skin irritations on your body when you touch it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you dilute in such amount, you avoid this toxicity, and you follow the principle of like cures like.
Mm-hmm.
So by diluting a substance, you will have not the toxicity, but will stimulate your immune system to react against the same symptoms. That's pretty much what it is.
So can I draw an analogy that's a bit bastardized, but is it the same thing as a vaccine, but like in a very like super low dose?
Thank you for bringing that. By the way, I believe in freedom of choice.
Mm-hmm.
I am vaccinated. My son is vaccinated. My mom is vaccinated. Everybody should have the choice. But there's no homeopathic vaccines. But you're right. It's the same idea. But we are diluting more than the
vaccination. For sure. Like it's the vaccine itself is meant to make you sick.
Meant to stimulate,
but a lot of times like you do get the symptoms like where you're really sick. Like
yes and no. It depends on how you react. You and I, we are so different.
Mm-hmm.
Your sensitivity and your health individualized treatment might not react the same way as mine.
Okay, right.
So that's why vaccine is always a touching subject. They always say, oh, because you are in homeopathy, you are anti-vax. I am not anti-vax. I am for pro-choice. I'm for freedom of choice.
Yeah.
Different. I am vaccinated. And that's why I insist all the time. It's my personal choice.
Yeah.
But I respect their choice as well. I don't like the extreme. I hate the extreme.
I mean, it depends on how political we want to get. but I feel like, you know, everything that comes to health and nutrition in general, a lot of these studies are also funded by certain companies. How much of that do you feel is directing the narrative of where people are looking at and what types of medicine they're looking at, right?
I never generalize. I totally understand how people can be concerned and challenge what big pharma could run as studies. Are they funded by them? Do you have any conflict of interest and so on? But if the big pharma doesn't finance these studies will never happen. You have to realize that. We invest in more than 20 projects, research projects right now, as I'm speaking right now in the world for our products. If we don't fund them, who's going to do it? Nobody's going to invest in homeopathic research. What I'm trying to tell you is there are good studies, but I understand also some people that could be skeptical as well, because sometimes you can have some conflict of interest.
Well, yeah, for sure. I'm just going to finish this point because I want to clarify what I meant by that, which is that in the US, and I think, well, it's in the US and Canada, right? Like it's one of the only countries where you can actually advertise as a medicinal product on TV, right?
Correct.
So my problem with that, and this is just me speaking because we're having conversation, problem with that with like big pharma is that, please don't kill me, is that you're basically funding studies, but you're also the biggest advertisers on these big networks that reach a lot of people. So at the end of the day, you have the platform to pass the message you want to pass.
It's very interesting what you're saying. What you hear, going back to us, what you hear from some people saying, when I came in Canada, I saw on the media, pharmaciens and all these people. They say, oh, there's no studies. So I did provoke a conference, press conference with some key
players,
key scientists from London, and a politician, Thomas Mulcair, and other people that and it provoked a little shake because I wanted to demystify one thing. It's wrong to say that there's no studies. There are research. I invite everybody to go on a website called HRI.research.org. HRI stands for Homeopathic Research Institute. They coordinate projects all over the world, in Israel, in India, in North America, in Europe, on research. But when you do a research on homeopathy, there's no pattern.
There's no patent?
There's no pattern. Because you do it on Nux vomica or Arnica. Everybody can create an Arnica product.
Yeah.
So with the regular conventional medications, when you do what we call an RCTs, I don't want to be too pharmacist, but a randomized control trial, it's very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
When we do our studies, it's between $1 to $2 million or even more per study. So you need a return of investment.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's $10 million, depending on the size of your study. So in order to do so, they need to have a return of investment. So that's why they do advertise. So I don't want to always blame the big pharma because I understand how complicated it is.
Makes
you see
sense.
what I mean? There's a nuance. In this society right now, we go too extreme. We say, oh, it's black or white. No, but there's a reason why they do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is very important when you look at the study is to find out, do you have an independent coordinator? Is it multi-centered? Is it these centers, do they communicate to each other? Is it the coordinator that, there are some process that you need to follow to make sure that your study is well run, well established, and independent.
Right.
That's what you need to look for.
So I want to bring it back to Boiron and your field of expertise. In the domain of homeopathy, what are you most excited about in terms of research and development right now?
We do innovate a lot. Innovation is very important. When you are in this industry, you have to respond to the need of your consumers, but in a very productive way. So what I'm the most proud of is we just launched a product called Arnicare Flex.
Okay.
Arnicare Flex is the Arnicare line that a lot of people understand. It's a topical line on Arnica, but a different formula targeting arthritis and arthritis symptoms, joint pain. And it's really responding to a demand of these elderly people that are under a lot of medications, and they are very concerned about interactions with the medications and side effects. So this product is safe and effective. And we've seen a huge result about it and success when we pretty much launched in less than a year, and I'm very, very proud of it. So it's everywhere now.
Okay, yeah, nice.
It's the Devil Claw and Arnica. It's 2 ingredients, 2 flowers, 2 plants that are very effective as anti-inflammatories. And I'm very surprised how fast success and the people, they use it. And we see what a criteria, a KPI that's very important is called the repetitive purchase.
Right.
And we track that. And I see the people buying the same all the time, repeating their purchase. That's the best effective KPI for me. If it doesn't work, you don't buy a $20 topical. But if it works, you go and buy it again and again and again.
Talking about anti-inflammatory, like one thing that really worked well for me, and I know you mentioned it before, like cold showers.
Yes.
It's amazing for me.
Yes.
I mean, and again, like everybody experiment with that to your own, like, I guess, like your tolerance to it. Don't put yourself in danger, but like, I really do feel like cold therapy helps immensely. Like,
amazing when to treat inflammations and for your blood circulations and so on. But I do alternate. My thing is I alternate hot and then I finish by a cold shower.
Okay.
And for me, it works.
Yeah.
And I get energized. I have less pain.
Well, it's been proven scientifically that like taking a cold shower, it was Dr. Andrew Huberman that talked about it on his podcast, but don't quote me here, but I think it does like 4x your dopamine for an extended period of hours.
Yes. It's all about how you feel.
Yeah.
What works for me might not work for you.
Yeah.
Experience it, observe it. It's called science. You know what science is about? It's doing an experience, observing the result, and repeating.
Well, it's a hypothesis that you put, and then afterwards, like...
And you repeat to see if it's really...
Is it true or false? Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. That's what science is about. And that's what homeopathy has been, a scientific reality for more than 200 years. With Dr. Hahnemann, we mentioned before, is because he experienced in the 70s, 96, he observed the Materia Medica. It's a compendium where he wrote all the cases, the observations that he observed, and then he did repeat. And that's what the definition of science.
Mm-hmm.
You can call it as you want, but that's the 3 steps of the basement of science.
So for you now in the company, how many employees are you?
Doesn't matter. I call them families. Overall, we are 4,000 employees. In North America, we are around 250 or 300. It doesn't matter. In Canada, I call them families. And what really drives me when I say families is how can we read the retention of these people? Because a family, sometimes you can argue, separate yourself, and not communicate anymore, and so on. Half of our employees are more than 15 years in the company.
Wow, okay.
Marie-Laure, 37 years. Lucie, 35 years, 36 in fact. Benoit, 30. Xavier, 20 and something. Me, 22. I can go on and on. But very often you can say, oh, I have X amount of employees. Great. But what about the turnover?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you do to keep them? Something in our company, the DNA of our company is family oriented. Something that we have experienced and what we're doing is we do profit sharings. We share our profit.
Mm-hmm.
So every employee in my subsidiary has a part of the profit at the end of the year.
Okay.
It can go up to 2 months of salaries.
Okay. And that's based on performance and
results.
Okay.
Not the top line, the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
Very often when you run a company, you're confused. You look
exactly.
At the top line.
Yeah.
At the end,
yeah,
the bottom line after taxes.
Yeah.
And then a part of it is dedicated to our shareholders. Part of it is, and I have the same amount in terms of percentage, like the janitorial, any employees in my company.
That's nice. So it incentivizes everyone to work towards a common goal. Yeah.
It's the sense of being part of a family, being part of a project on a long-term mission.
But also, like if we all win, we win together. If we eat, we eat together. Like it's not like you're getting like the scraps and I'm getting like the big piece of the pie. Like it's very
Have you practiced sports?
I have, yeah.
In a good level?
Well, I did okay level.
Okay
but yeah,
level.
I did. I did play soccer and yeah.
You know what it is in the locker room.
Yeah.
When you lose that 1-0 and you have to go to the second half.
Yeah.
So, guys, we're together. And despite our differences and tensions or whatsoever, we have one project.
Yeah.
So you're with it or you go on the bench.
Uh-huh.
That's what it is. When you run the company, you are with us or you go on the bench.
But I read interviews that you've done as well that 78% of your management is predominantly women.
Yeah.
It brings us back to the point that you brought up before. You said like with men, like we're very
overestimating our capacity.
Yes.
But we have less fears than women.
Okay.
Women are most of the time. No, I don't like to generalize, but they are more competent. They underestimate their capacities. Let me give you one example. I'm not going to name her, but she will hear and she will know that I'm talking about her. When I came in the company in 2015 or in the Canadian subsidiary, most of the managers, directors, vice presidents were men.
Mm-hmm.
They came from the US because the US was taking over the Canadian subsidiary. And I observed 80% of our consumers are women.
Mm-hmm.
80% of our employees are women. 75% of our management team are men.
Mm.
So I brought my US colleagues back in the days and I said, we need to identify in our team some key players, key employees that we can invest, we can make them grow in terms of competences, and we make them become managers, directors, and vice president. That's our mission. And now, 78% of our management and directors and vice presidents are women. But I mentioned her name, sorry.
Oh.
Back in the days when I told her to become the sales manager for Quebec, remove her name, okay?
Yeah, I will.
She told me, Daniel, thank you for this great opportunity, but I cannot do it. I says, why? Because I have young kids. I have 2 kids and they are young. I said, okay. We were in Arizona when she told me that. And I said, go back to your hotel room, have a great night with your colleagues, and tomorrow morning we'll have breakfast. And you're going to come to me and you're going to give me the rationale why, how you're going to explain to your kids that you are not capable to do that job and to take this opportunity as a manager. The next day she came, she looked at me and says, I get it. Okay, thank you. And she's still our sales manager in Quebec.
Wow, that's awesome.
You know where it comes from? From my mom. My mom was a housekeeper. She was cleaning houses. She was a refugee. And she was a powerful woman. But she worked really hard to make who I am right now, who I became. She's very humble. And it's because of her. I'm not perfect. I made some mistakes in my life. But if there's one thing before I die that people can say, I believe if I can give the opportunity to this woman to take power in a company and take the power and the leadership, it's our mission to do it. And I really hope that the day when I'm not anymore the CEO of Boiron Canada, a woman will take over. It's time to give the power to a woman, as I want a woman to be the president of the US, as I want a woman to be the president of France. It's time for them to take the power. We've done our time. It's time to change. It is time to change. I really believe in it. Time to make a change. We have our limits. And I know some men will not like what I'm saying, but I don't care.
For me, I feel like we're too biblical, or we're too stuck in ways of, and when I say biblical, it's like we're too stubborn in our way of thinking about what man and woman means.
Yeah.
We all have a masculine and feminine side.
True.
Right.
Injustice makes me angry. I hate injustice. And women have been discriminated, as also some genders and so on. And that's why I'm very, how can I say, supportive when some communities are fighting for their rights.
For sure.
Gays, lesbian, transvestite, women, whatever you want, black women, anything, Arabics and so on. It's time.
But also, and I'm sorry I'm cutting you off, but like, to me, let's make it a meritocracy.
Exactly.
Based on merit.
Meritocracy is the right term. In France, when I grew up, it wasn't based on that criteria and principle. Meritocracy was what was my biggest frustration when I was in France, when I grew up in France. And I realized at 24 years old that with my name, well, my name doesn't matter, but my face, my color of skin,
and
where I grew up,
yeah,
I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't become the CEO. So I had to go to the US.
Yeah.
Even though it's a French company. Yeah. I knew I had to export myself somewhere, somehow, to show that I have my value and that I was working hard to make it happen. I hope in my country that I adore, France, that things have changed. But meritocracy is the right term. People deserve.
They're rewarded based on what's the output. And if you're good, you're rewarded.
If you're bad, you're bad.
Yeah, exactly. Let's not base your performance on your color of skin or like your gender or like your sexual like attraction or whatever. Like, who cares?
We don't care about that.
Yeah.
Who cares about that? I always tell my son, he's 13 years old. You love who you want to love. You have your friends that are the right people. Who cares what people think, what people tell you? Run your life the way you believe it's right. But break me these walls. Break me these stupid walls. You know what I mean? I am very hopeful with this new generation. I really hope that I'm more optimistic than people at my age. They always complain about this new generation. I have more hope.
But I think you taking the time today to come and have this conversation, like it's one conversation at a time that we change the narrative. So I want to take a little moment to, first of all, like thank you. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge you. First time we met, I felt like you were a very empathetic person. And
No, because you're a nice person. Remember? I told you.
yeah. It's reciprocal. But my point is just that I think more people need to hear this message, especially from someone coming from, as an immigrant, mother was a refugee and everything. Like, we don't come from a family that was feeding us with silver spoons. You know? What I find powerful about the era that we're living in right now is that we can project this message and 1,000, 100 people, like, doesn't care, as long as there's one person that can hear it and can change their life or give them the courage to act in a place of fear, but still act. I think that you coming here today to do that, like it's 100% like an inspiration and also like a motivation for people out there to listen to this.
As you said, I really hope that someone will say, look, I heard that, and why not me?
Yeah.
Why not me? When I was 13 years old, my French teacher told me I will be the society garbage, in French, the déchet de la société. And it really affected me. And good thing that I was surrounded by a strong mother who believed in me. But I was cocky, and I'm still, but less now, but I was still. And I sent a copy of my first salary as a pharmacist, and I sent a check to that guy. I hope he's still alive, but you can kill someone's dream. You can kill someone's hope. It's criminal to tell to a kid, you are garbage, you will do nothing in this, and you have no potential. Everybody has a potential.
Yeah.
Everybody has a potential. You just have to believe in one dream that you have, one objective, work hard about it. You will hear people telling you that you're bad, that you're a piece of shit. You will hear a lot of negativity. Surround yourself, try to surround yourself with positive people that believe in you or that doesn't put you down. That, sometimes surround yourself with people that are even more smarter than you and more successful than you, and go for it. The fuck do you have to wait? We have one life.
Yeah. And I mean, building up on that, like that self-doubt that you have, someone put that shit in you.
Always. And that sticks in your mind all the time and stress you out. Hey,
like,
what the hell?
Just let go. Let go of it. Like, who cares?
You make mistakes? I made tons of mistakes.
Yeah.
And I regret. And by the way, if some people hear me and they were mad at me in the past, I regret and I'm sorry and I apologize. I made mistakes in my life. Try to do your best. See a psychologist. Learn about you. I'm still learning. I still have a lot of work to do, but do your best. We have only one life, man. Why are we, why all these tensions? Why all these differences? Why blaming this kid at 13 years old? Why, you know what I mean? Why? We all have a beautiful journey in front of us. It's beautiful with ups and downs. And that's the tricky part.
Well, it's a tricky part, but also like an analogy that helps me a lot is I see it like a movie. Do you want the whole movie to go well? No, you want the little like tension, what's going to happen? And then eventually like there's a tension, there's a problem, it's resolved.
Yeah.
And now we get to see the sequel or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's what keeps life interesting.
Emotionally, my personal life, for a couple of years, I've been driving in the wrong way of the highway.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
Not going into any details, but
okay, but you've been
I made some mistakes.
You've been, I guess, like you've been optimizing for the wrong thing, or
no, I was not behaving the right way.
Okay,
I realized because I was insecure.
Oh.
And one day you meet people who makes you realize you have to take, like my best friend,
accountability.
One of my best friend here says, "Get the first exit and do a U-turn. We believe in you." And then you change, see, and you invest in you, and you move on. It's okay to make mistakes. The key is to understand these mistakes, to forgive yourself. Mm-hmm. It's a long process to forgive yourself, and don't try to reduplicate the same shit.
Yeah.
It's pretty much. And life is too short. When you are almost 50, that's what you tell yourself. Hey, you'll have some good years. Surround yourself with the right guys, right people, right friends, and try to do your best now and select more and remove some people. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. You're not perfect. And nobody's perfect.
There's one thing I heard on a podcast recently from Alex Hormozy. He defined learning as error correction. So basically you make an error, you correct it. And subsequently what he said is like, intelligence is rate of learning.
Always.
How quick can you get from like that error to correct the error and not repeat the same pattern? Because basically if you keep repeating the same pattern, as Einstein said, like that's this definition of insanity, right? Like you're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results.
You need some support about that.
For sure.
In my generation, in where I came from, seeing a psychologist meant that you were sick.
Yeah. So it was different narrative that back then.
Your new generation, seeing a psychologist, especially after COVID, is part of what everybody could do and needs to do.
It's socially accepted.
It's socially accepted. That's why it took me so long to see that and to do that. So you cannot blame the person always when they make constantly the same mistakes. But sometimes the person, when they get the right support and the right help, they will see the curving point to go to the right way of the highway.
Yeah, the right exit.
The right exit and the right entrance.
I want to be wary of your time. I have one final question for you. If you had to put one message on a billboard in Montreal.
In Montreal?
Yeah, in Montreal or anywhere, like any city that you want. What would it be?
In this context, the world we're living right now, be tolerant. I was mentioning before, and be tolerant, because we are in a society where we are divided. We have a society where we put all the migrants here. Oh, look, this immigration. Oh, look at these people. Oh, one against the other. One therapy against the other. Homeopathy, regular, conventional. And what if we live together and we accept our differences and accept that there's stuff bothering us? But right now, the society is set up in a way that we get divided. US, Canadians.
Yeah, it's black and white.
Black and white. The world is not black and white.
It's gray.
It's gray. Dark gray, light gray, call it as you want. There's ups and downs. But be tolerant. When you go to a restaurant, when I go to the restroom all the time, I look at the kitchen. And I look at who's washing the dishes. And I see most of the time someone dark like me or darker, a woman, man, washing the dishes. And I'm wondering, how much do they make? Are they struggling? Where did they come from? They are washing the dishes for me, who has enough money to buy this beautiful food and everything, and experience that. So when you come from a different country, you are a refugee and so on, you want to leave, you want to give the best for your kids, a secured, healthy life. And very often when you listen to the politicians, you listen to the media, and you say, we get divided, we have a fear of these people. And that pissed me off. I'm tired of it. That's why I removed my cable TV. That's why I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Because I think there's in every person, we want to live safe, we want to be happy. We
all have the same needs and the same desire to have attention, tenderness, and love. Like it's all the same.
In my company, there's 18 different nationalities. 18. Can name them from all the continents. But they all respect everybody. One example. In fact, Liliane and Youssef, two people that we hired in the past, they came from Egypt during the revolution, and they escaped. They were scared, and they didn't speak French. And you know who teach them French and who helped them to pass the immigration residency in France, in the French language?
Yeah.
Here in Quebec? The Québécois.
Wow.
They were practicing during lunch.
That's amazing.
That's what I say, but be tolerant. We have only one life, so.
I love that. Well, Daniel, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
I appreciate you, brother.
Always.